Hello and welcome to the first Circus Diaries vlog. I have been at the Think Circus 2 conference in Paris, in France, and the purpose of the conference was to reflect on the five-year project of the Circus Next, a professional development and mentoring and support scheme which artists apply for. They go through different levels, and the finally selected laureates then get a touring programme supported by Circus Next. So it's been really great for allowing young artists a chance to experiment with their circus technique and their art, and also to cross international boundaries within Europe. So yeah, the conference is the conclusion of that funding stream, and it's been designed so that rather than just looking back at what's happened, it's inviting artists and thinkers around circus arts to look at what potential futures can be and where things go from here, what the next steps are. So it's a positive mindset rather than just looking at what's gone on before. It's very specifically about a particular type of circus, which is circus that is looking to explore an artistic meaning, rather than, sometimes you want to be entertained, sometimes you want something beautiful, just to drift away in your own little world. But the Circus Next is looking at kind of experimental development of meaning for circus arts. So the conference focuses particularly on that area. I've got myself a little badge, which I quickly managed to break and scribble notes all over, because scribbling notes on things is what I do. Swag bag, which has programs of the previous editions of Circus Next project, the shows that they're touring at the moment. But I'll put links to the organisations below, and I suppose I should get on with the vlogging. So I have just come out of the first day of the Think Circus conference. I'm starving because I left my house at 7:30 this morning and I've had a croissant. So I'm going to go to the bar and get a drink and hopefully find some food on the way, and I'll chat to you later. Hi. Bonjour. So it turns out that no food and a strange city and 2% battery on your phone are not conducive to creating a video log of your experiences that day. So this is now day 2 of the Think Circus conference, and I am feeling much fresher. The theme yesterday was a lot about how you accompany circus artists in their creation process. So the room is filled with people who work for support institutions of various kinds. I, yesterday, was the only British person in the room, which made me feel quite sad, especially as the day began with this beautiful reflection on how the collaboration and the ease of passage between European countries is so conducive to creating great art and great relationships. And I just wanted to cry because, of course, we know that the Brexit is on the cards, which many people are happy about. I'm not one of them. But yeah, finding out how things are going on in Europe in the circus industry is quite a revelation, and it does make me feel like we could be a little bit behind in the UK. but I am going to go in and see what today's discussions bring, and you will get a full rundown later on. Over and out. Or, no, what am I supposed to say? Au revoir. Hello, and this is day 3 of the Think Circus conference, and I'm not actually there. You probably can't see from the abstract reflections behind me, but yeah, I have to get a flight back home to Cardiff. So I am gonna just give you a few reflections on the things that stood out to me as really interesting from the conference for the first couple of days. And they did tell me, or they told us all, that the whole thing has been recorded and it is going to go on the website for the Circus Next project, which is run by the Untitled Chapter, excuse my French. So I will post a link to where that's going to be as it comes available. So the first day, my highlights, I guess, were there was a couple of research presentations, and one was based in the circus industry in France, and one was commissioned by the FEDEC, which is the organisation that what's the word? The FEDEC is the organisation that looks after, it's like an association of circus schools, mostly in Europe. I think Montreal School is also part of it. But yeah, we always hear a lot about how wonderful circus conditions are in France, and so it was quite interesting that some of this research was able to point out things that other places are doing better, so we can all learn from each other, and France is no exception. So the obstacles that face women to train professionally in circus and also to enter the industry, slowly improving everywhere, but not as well in France as they are in other places. So that was pretty interesting. Also, there was some talk about how health issues for circus performers, based on injuries and mental health and just general fatigue, are usually seen as personal, individual issues. And it's widely recognised that these personal, individual issues are a given part of the job. So it's interesting that it is not being addressed as a circus-wide challenge to tackle yet, but it seems like these discoveries and this research is going to lead in that direction, and it also feeds in quite nicely to some stuff on day 2, where the talk was a lot about holistic circus training and the need for the training to address the whole body awareness and also awareness of mental health and sustainability. But I'll talk about that a bit later on. Oh yeah, the countries that are making the most improvement in their new circus industries are Spain and Germany. Well done, you guys. Full details of these researches will, I'm sure, be available, but that's a nice little soundbite for you. The end of day 1 and the end of day 2 were tied together by these dreams of utopian circus futures for the industry and for artists. And one of my favourite quotes was Jean-Michel Guy, who is a pretty famous circus researcher. I did a little geek out in my head. I've never actually been able to read any of his stuff because it's in French and my reading of French is not adequate. Sorry, I just noticed that my camera is... Alright, so I have gone and deleted a bunch of files, and hopefully that means that I can record my video. The quote that I've been trying to get to from Jean-Michel Guy is about an ideal vision of the future for Circus. He says, excellence can never be universal, so to reach universal excellence, Circus must become hugely diverse. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that, but I think it speaks to what I try and do about covering all the different types of circus. You know, there's not one that's better than another, they reach different audiences. He also talked about the difficulty artists have in trying to express their own opinion about themselves and the work that they do, and the theme of not having correct languages, not having vocabularies and terminologies came up several times over the course of the conference from different people, as it does tend to do. So pushing like the idea that we need to talk about circus and communicate it on a global level, I think is really important for the development of the industry, and it seems like I'm not the only one who thinks that. And he says, for me, research and criticism go together. You have to get used to looking at the details and be very specific with the meaning of words. Yes. So the conference is quite exhausting for me because I have these headphones on and it's doing simultaneous translation. So a lot of the presenters are talking in French, and then I'm getting the English through my ears. So these quotes that I'm giving are what the English interpreter said, so they're not exactly the word for word of the French speech, but they are what I heard. The afternoon on day 2 is my absolute favourite session. Oh my god, I've only got 9 seconds. So I have discovered that one, my phone storage is running really low and it won't let me record more than a few seconds at a time now until I can get home, upload this, delete stuff. And also my flight is about to begin boarding. So you will get part 2 of the update when I get home. Right, so I am now back in sunny Cardiff, and I was trying to tell you about my favourite things. I got super excited yesterday afternoon with the session that was designed to show that there's never one way to analyse or to review a piece of art or any performance, piece of circus, whatever. There's always different perspectives and different lenses that you can use to analyse and to reflect on what has been produced and why it has been produced and what effects it's had. So Francisca Trapp was giving a semiotic approach, and Agathe Dumont was looking through a movement analysis approach to both the same piece of work, which was a solo experimental juggling performance called Fragments of a Mind from Dara McLaughlin. My sorrow and can love only me. So, for a start, it's really lovely to hear people giving performance analysis of circus that goes beyond the fan response of the positives and actually looks more in depth at like rationale and meaning. Which again, like they say, is not the only way to look at circus, but it's nice to hear that happening because that's quite a new evolution. And there was also a lot of talk in that session about kinesthetic empathy, because kinesthetic empathy is the way that when you watch another body in action, your nervous system is physiologically impacted by that experience, and therefore you will feel a sensation. It comes down to mirror neuron science that's being explored. But anyway, there was talk about the explorations towards kinesthetic empathy, and I think that also ties in with the couple of the other threads about holistic circus education and the impact that that can have, not just on the artists, but actually on the health and well-being for society as a whole. I know there's a few studies going on in Montreal and in Wales about the value of circus in primary school education for physical literacy, but I think there's also a strong connection with mindfulness and meditative practice, and once all those threads can be tied together, I think it could have quite a lot of impact. The final session yesterday was a talk from Alexander Frei, who is from the company Untitled, and he was talking about his methods of making work. And the concept that I found interesting there was that quite often when you're making circus, what you're trying to do is actually a negative. You're trying not to do something. You're trying not to fall off a wire, or you're trying not to let your partner slip off your shoulders. And so when he looks at building work from the technique outwards, he thinks it's useful to interrogate what it is you're actually trying to do and how that can be communicated and shared with an audience. Because again, it comes back to this thing of how can we share and invite an audience in to an experience with us. It's not just showing you something that you can then leave, it's two-way communication. So I'm just going to check my notebook and see if there's anything that I missed talking about. I suppose I should say what I'm missing today, actually. That is the programme. So it's not got a programme inside, it's got a load of notes for, well, one day for a book. But yeah, this is the insert. So today, Friday, artists' mobility in Europe. Yeah, it would have been nice if I could have gone. I've got to go to a wedding soon, so I had to fly back today and miss that. But even when the event started, the talk about European cooperation and opportunities was a real heart-wrench for me, knowing about this imminent Brexit. So it might have been too painful. But as I said before, there is going to be a document of the entire conference put on the Circus Next website. So I will find out what that is and put it in the links. If you want to find out any more about these concepts, send me a comment or find the people that I've mentioned. And yeah, I hope I didn't geek out on you too much, but yeah, we've all got to be a bit obsessed in the circus world, and my obsessions may be a bit less physical than most. But yeah, I think the next conference I'm going to will be in the end of June, so we can give you your next Circademic update then. Thanks for watching. What am I supposed to say? Oh yeah, subscribe. Dang. Thanks. Bye. Bong.